we were from Indiana. We met while I was a boarder at Indiana State University in her parents' house.
Oh, but he doesn't tell the complete story. The real story is that his brother first tried to court me. And I say tried to court me because, well, he wasn't exactly my type of suitor, kind of short and not really, yeah. And then he brought his brother along, Arthur, here, and then I was okay with that. And I told my parents nothing about James and his suiting of me, and said I kept that quiet so that he and his brother could live in our house.
Well, and so I was courting Maggie, and then in my junior year decided she was too much of a distraction to stay in the house, so I had to move out. And we were planning on getting married. That was in our plans, and then the Civil War came about. Now, for the Civil War, there's an interesting story. I originally volunteered, and as a volunteer, you're offered a bonus, and you're offered a great commission. So I was given a bonus. I was going to be commissioned as a lieutenant, and that, as a lieutenant, that's a pretty plum position. Well, then shortly after that, within weeks, my brother James was drafted. And my brother James was sickly, constantly battled illness, and James knew, and my mom knew, and anyone who knew James knew he would not survive serving in the Civil War. So, you have an option, and you can pay $1,000 or to buy yourself out of serving in the Civil War, or you can have somebody serve in your stead. Well, while our father owned land, he didn't have $1,000 to pay the government. So, being the brother that I was, knowing that he would not survive, I resigned to my commission, returned my bonus, and was technically drafted into the Army as a private. So I served a year in the Civil War, mainly bedridden, convalescing in the hospital due to various illnesses, serving periodically towards the end as a nurse.
But you forgot the important thing, that you and I both wrote back and forth to each other in letters, and we also kept a journal. I kept a journal knowing that he was going to be in the Civil War, and he did one as well. And those are documents that have been kept up to this date, and in current days, they actually are available as publications. You can read basically the thoughts, the lives of the Civil War woman in waiting, as well as the Civil War soldier.
Yep. And so then I returned to Indiana, and we ended up getting married.
Oh, but wait, you had to start a business first.
As I was about to say, yeah. But yes. So I entered into a partnership with General Tom Brady. He bought the Muncie Times. I was a part owner and named editor, and eventually purchased the paper outright. And during that time, I became involved in the school system. And you can see our second youngest child, Charles, right here. And due to the inefficiencies of the school system, I proposed many reforms and eventually got elected superintendent of the Delaware County school system. And many of my reforms were taken not only by Indiana and implemented, but implemented by many other states. So I was considered the foremost author of school law and school reform. And so that was my claim to fame in Indiana. I was also elected into the state legislature. But then due to Maggie's declining health, we needed to find a climate more suitable. And South Dakota ended up providing that climate, which brought us to Springfield as our original home, and my position as the Registrar of Public Lands. That's a politically appointed position. And then for 2 years after that, it took us to Watertown. And at which point, I was the Registrar of Public Lands up there, but I also became involved in Republican politics. Well, at the time, we were a territory, and Congress was run by Democrats. So I also found myself shortly thereafter unemployed. And since my home was provided by my position, I was also homeless. So I'm 40 years old, homeless, unemployed, with a wife who's still, battling illness.
And 4 kids, four boys.
4 kids, Wiley, Charles, Anton, and JR. And so what we did, started a brick factory, started a publishing company. I got involved in law again. Maggie became very active in the community.
Yes, the church was very important to me, and so I made certain that I was involved with different social gatherings and philanthropies, trying to provide opportunities for the needy. As you should be aware of, women in that era, primarily one of their responsibilities is to help others in need. And so men who are convalescing from war days or people who are ill, we would take into our house and would help to nurse back to health. The other thing that was really important to both Arthur and I was literature. We would make certain that we started a literary foundation and that we had literary groups. Chaucer is one of our favorites, and in fact, Arthur here would read Shakespeare in the morning when he was eating breakfast. So that was very important to us, in addition to the politics, was also to have the community aspect and to have the literature and bringing in those type of organizations to our community.
And as we became established in Watertown, I ventured back into politics, maintaining my ties in business. We even started the Arcade Hotel in Watertown, and all the time fighting for and pushing for statehood. And in 1888, I was appointed the Dakota Territory governor by Benjamin Harrison. And then in 1889, I was through the Enabling Act, the Dakotas were entered as states and entered as two distinct states, North Dakota and South Dakota. And so I'm proud to serve as the final Dakota Territory governor and the first governor of the state of South Dakota.